to this edition of A Conversation With. I'm Jim Marshall of the New Bedford Cable Network, and we are joined in studio today with our friend, Andy Pollock.
Good to see you, Jim.
From the SouthCoast LGBTQ Network.
It's a mouthful, isn't it?
I know it is. You got to say it slow to get it all in there, to be honest with you. It's good seeing you.
Nice to see you, too.
It's that time of year.
Yes.
Pride Month is upon us. Busy time. Well, it's always a busy time for you guys, but I know it's a lot of...
It's a lot of work.
A lot of outside stuff going on right now. It's great to be out, especially after the winter and spring. It's been a wet spring, but this month a great chance to get out and just do different things.
Absolutely.
So it's good stuff. Good seeing you. Talk a little bit as a start. Just talk about the network right now. How we doing? We're
doing fine. Network's working with youth, trans, and elders as our principal focus. We have offices now in Fall River and Taunton, open and providing services for folks. It was a great community asset. New Bedford, we are working through groundworks, and we're also putting together a building, which we were talking about. Yeah. We can talk about that later. And Pride Month is coming, which is sort of all hands on deck. Pride Month is here. What am I saying? Right. And so the focus is doing the festivals, getting them done, and moving forward. So
the organization seems to have grown, just staffing-wise. Even from like the last time you and I talked. I mean, we talk every year, but it seems that the staffing level has grown.
A lot of that is with part-time staff, which is fine. And we're trying to grow the influence of it. When we started 10 years ago, it's 10 years that we was put together, and the idea was it was to be a conduit for services. And then we realized very quickly that there weren't services to be the conduit for, right? So
chicken or the egg?
I know, where did it start? So we were the chicken looking for the egg, and there weren't any. So we thought, well, we got to provide them. So one of the things that really works well is our elder services. We have supper clubs that meet all over. Once the older folks get involved, they're really connected, which is great. This year at Pride, we're doing special tents for the elders, places where they can sit, they can have something to eat, drink, games, sit close to the entertainment. And if you don't have the capacity to walk around Buttonwood Park or Hopewell Park in Taunton for 4 hours, you can sit and rest and relax. Yeah. And that's unique, I think, for a lot of prides, that we focus some attention on our elders and give them some special love.
You've talked about that in the past, about the elders, and I want to get to that in the youth too. But I'm curious is how unique, and I don't think I've asked you this before, how unique is the South Coast Network compared to other parts of the state? Are there other such, do you have similar, I don't even know what you would call them, networks in other parts of the state?
There is something called SAGE, which is an alliance of older LGBT folks, and that's a national organization. They had asked us to organize in our area, but they wanted us to go all the way out to Provincetown, which we don't have the bandwidth to do. So there are similar things that are happening across the country. It's kind of unique to see it all wrapped in one package.
I mean, does the Cape have something, or
I'm not
Western Mass, or anything like what you have?
I don't know.
And that's interesting to me that, I mean, in a sense, I don't want to say you're a trendsetter, but I mean, you're ahead of the curve.
There are other places in the country that have active community centers where there's involvement with the entire spectrum. Not as much in New England. There's one in Connecticut that we know of, and Massachusetts, we're the first of its kind to have a center that is open to multi-age, multicultural, a variety of stuff. In the past, there's been houses for folks with AIDS or specific homeless population or what have you, but for us, it's it's the whole.
And the other thing is you have the different offices in the different communities too, so you're more accessible than you were 10 years ago. I mean,
exactly.
But again, it shows how much you've grown.
Right. We're wildly excited. We're looking forward to a new year. We're hiring a full-time executive director, which is great. We've had a woman who's fantastic, but she's worked part-time and she has another job, which a lot of us do have another position that we're volunteering or given or hired part-time. So I'm excited about that because that's going to give some real impetus to the movement. I think we have a great year ahead of us.
Has your business plan, in a sense, it must have changed?
Oh yeah,
over the
it
10 years?
changes
I mean,
all the
because
time.
now you're, as you said, you're hiring an executive director. You've got these different offices. You've always been a nonprofit, but I would assume that the business model now is totally different.
Yeah, than 10 years ago, amazing. We had one part-time employee of 10 hours a week, and we had a budget of $35,000. Now we have a budget of probably like $400,000, and we have quite a few employees, and 3 locations. So the next stage of it is to move the organization. We've got. I look at a church structure. It's easier for me to figure. When we started, we were like a family church where everyone's involved, and we do one big thing, which was pride. And then we moved to a more corporate structure where there was the church choir, the church school, the church bazaar, all these different organizations, and there's more committees. And then we moved to a more corporate level where the staff are running those events, and the board is above that saying, okay, where we're going to do.
Right.
And we're still at the point where sometimes the board needs to pull down and say, okay, yeah, we got to go to Pride, and we got to help out, we got to volunteer and do this stuff. But we're moving much more to a corporate model where the staff are doing functionary tasks, and the board is doing more directional, which is great.
Does that change from what you started with? Because it was probably more one-on-one, I would assume. But now that you've got a more corporate structure, does that change how you interact with people?
Hopefully not. Hopefully we still have that interactive.
Because you're getting bigger. There's no question about it.
We have some great staff, and they're forming relationships, and they're reaching out into the community. One of the difficulties that we have is that gay people, I always say, are like giraffes born in a dairy barn. I've said that before. So in a typical family, like I come from an Irish-Scottish family that's been in the United States for a long time, we have a culture, we have stories, we have history, we have ways of dealing with stress and problems, and all this cultural stuff that we, church that we belong to, or a religious organization, it's a natural fit. You just fit right in. Where you're a gay kid, you're gay, but you're born into a straight family, and you got to find your gay colleagues. You got to find your gay culture. So finding those folks and bringing them in. So that's why with the youth, it's important. A lot of times, homelessness is rife in the LGBT community. Kids get kicked out of their house. A lot of the kids on the street are LGBT. Fortunately for us, the kids that we work with are home secure, which is just a wonderful statistic. And we work with them to keep them at home, keep them connected with their family, get family counseling if they need it, resources and available for that. But the kids come and go. The older folks, which is great, when we find them and bring them into the fold, they're stuck. They'll love it.
Nice.
So we do a lot of intergenerational things with the kids and the elders, and then we do segmented generational events for just the elders or just the kids. But what I want to do for both of those is introduce them to each other. And in our culture, both American culture and the LGBTQ culture especially, youth is venerated, right? We always go for the youth.
We'd all like to be youth.
We all, knowing what we know now.
Exactly.
So, that being said, the elders have so much to give as far as historical context. I know guys who were in bars when they were raided as young men, back in the 70s or 60s and 70s, when the bars were still raided by the police. And that experiential knowledge passed on to an 18-year-old who's never been in a state that hasn't allowed gay marriage is really fascinating.
Right.
So for us to venerate and to admire and to value the elders, models to the kids, full of wisdom,
yeah.
And then to the kids, for the elders. I love the advertisement where the grandchildren are visiting the grandparents, and the grandparents come out with all their technical stuff. And they said, "We're so glad you're here," and they have all those things
Here you go.
to fix. And I think that the kids have a lot to teach the elders too about what the culture is like today, what their life is.
Yeah.
It's very different,
It's different.
than, you and I learned how to type on a manual typewriter, and I tell my nephews, and they think I'm a dinosaur, tip, 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 ping, slap,
Exactly.
What are you talking about? So there's so much value in both sides, and what we'd like to do is combine the two and provide value in that, The
other thing I've noticed too, it just seems to me that the communities now are also responding to and with you for different things too.
Yeah.
I mean, you have different offices in different places, and you're doing Pride in different communities as well. I mean, the communities, and I'm generalizing, have embraced the organization, and that's a great thing.
Yes, I will say that's true. We've also had violence against us, and we've had 4 instances of Nazi intrusion, shall we say. One was a year and a half ago when the Nazis went through the Taunton Library on top of our staff, calling them whores, pedophiles, groomers, et cetera. Interestingly, one of the fellows that was doing that was since arrested for child porn, as he's yelling, "Protect the kids." You just can't make this stuff up. So we're aware that on one hand, the communities are more accepting. On the other hand, we're triggering, for some folks, a violent and, to my mind, what would you say, maybe way over the top response. So we do have our own folks that when we do Pride, we call them celebrators, where we work as intermediaries between the protesters and ourselves. So we're cognizant of that.
So the town officials, though, seem to be
they're better.
Helping.
They're better, yeah.
Move things along.
Yeah.
Which is a huge step in the right direction too.
Very positive.
But you've been very positive, and again, I'm generalizing. You've been very positive about this neck of the woods.
Yeah.
In the past, it's better than a lot of other places.
We believe a lot in engagement. We believe a lot in moving people along. And you may be over here, and we want you to get over here. And if we move you to this point, and you still have to go over here, we've moved you. So, for instance, I've met with the Republican Town Committee in Dartmouth. 2 volumes and a "Can't Keep a Good Bitch Down" t-shirt later. And I knew some of the folks. I said, can I come and talk? And some of the people in the meeting said, "Why are you here?" And I said, "Why wouldn't I be here? We are in your community. We're your doctors, your accountants, your policemen, your garbage collectors. We're everybody. And so you need to know about us, because how we're impacted is how you're impacted, because you may have a surgeon who's providing a surgery for you, or your accountant's doing your tax return. And if you know that the marriage is being threatened, or the civil rights are being threatened, you have a better understanding. So a third of the folks were listening, a third of the folks were sort of questioning, and a third of folks were out to get me. But still, a third were there to listen. So we move them ahead. We become personal. We become, instead of the gay guy, it's Andy. He has a farm, he keeps his house, he does good things for the community. I know him. That breaks down a lot of the stereotypes, and we move forward. So we're really big about engagement. Our executive director currently has worked with the police, and she works with groups in cohorts: the conservatives, the less conservatives, the somewhat liberal, and the liberal. And I thought it was brilliant, because the conservatives can say things among themselves that they wouldn't say with a liberal person in there, and vice versa. So you can move each group along incrementally, but not to the same point.
Let's talk a little bit. I want to touch on the community center and
Sure.
For things, because we've been talking about this for a couple of years now.
Dear God, yeah, I know.
Obviously, the vision is unbelievable.
Yeah.
You've got some work to do still. Work that you weren't expecting to do.
Yes. Well, I've been saying that we're waiting to find some archaeological treasure in the basement, and then the whole thing has to be,
Saved.
started again, right?
Yeah.
The original King Phillips, or the, John Bradford, or whatever his name was.
For those who don't know, by the way, it's the proposed is the downtown
Old Sister Rose building.
Market Ministry. Sister Rose building.
68th Street.
Yep.
The outside looks fantastic. The outside of the building's done.
You were joking, and I'm like, you go to the outside of that building, and it looks solid. It's just.
It's going to be there. The interior was a surprise. We took out all the walls and stripped it down to the stone. Well, guess what? There's structural issues. So steel beams, concrete, cement, that's being done as we speak. The interior should be done hopefully soon, this summer, knock wood. And we're hoping to get in by next year. With the added changes in the construction, it means added costs. We're still looking for, we're raising money. We're going to a public phase where we'll be selling bricks for the backyard, create a rainbow or whatever it is. Going out to the public, we haven't done that. It's time to do that, to move out to individuals, $100, $1,000 contributions. We've been very fortunate with some very generous contributions from the city. We got some ARPA funding, we got some CPA funding. Some of the banks were very generous, some of the community foundation organizations, the Carney Foundation.
You haven't had to change, though, the plans inside.
No.
Because you've been on the show before talking about the vision and about a computer room and kitchen
tech center,
and all sorts of different things. You're still on track to do that.
Yes, the kitchen is imperative. I think that could be the heart of the building. The fact that we could have breakfasts or coffees or people hanging out, having dinners, having things that are, meetings where there's food. A commercial kitchen also could be an engine for income. I'm looking at that, where we could have a rented space. I've used the commercial kitchen at the Grange in Dartmouth. It goes all night. We could rent it for a lower amount. If you need to provide food in a registered commercial kitchen, like if you're doing catering or you're selling at a farmer's market, this is a perfect opportunity. So we're thinking that could be not only keep the building in use 24/7, but it would generate some income.
And again, you're right. You're going to, again, the business model, the corporate structure that you're talking about, that you did talk about, you got to make money.
You got to keep the lights on.
You got to get this, and that's just.
So we're hoping to rent some office space that we generate as the new building comes online, but also the kitchen that we could generate some income that way, and also be an incubator for some small businesses, whether it's LGBT or just in general. You don't have to. It's right on the bus line. You could walk for a lot of people. It's the beauty of that building is that it's a stone's throw from Union Street, but when you're in the building, you feel like you're kind of in a residential area.
Were you surprised, or when you're talking about the interior, is it bigger than you thought?
Yeah, it's amazing. The basement was really scary. It was there was a locker room, there was a shower room. It was musty and moldy, and just no one wanted to go down there. It was sort of like one of these bad movies with a scratchy camera. Now it's cleaned up. The ceiling's been taken down. It's going to be a wonderful storage space.
There's three floors.
Four floors counting the basement.
Right.
So, and the third floor was had an attic above it, and they opened that up, and we'll still have an attic for HVC, but we think the ceiling can go a little bit higher. It's going to be really very dramatic. It's going to be lovely up there.
So there is a lot of space in there to do what you're talking about. Because
Right.
I know when we did the show last time, the second floor, there were offices for you folks.
Right, and third floor as well. So we have some office space on the second floor. We also have a conference room, kind of a larger boardroom sort of experience, and then offices on the third floor. So yeah, it's.
And you wanted a community room, as I remember.
In the first floor. Right.
Okay, first floor. I was thinking, a kid's room in the basement or something like that, like a lot of parents do. But
yeah, I'm not sure about that, but definitely storage in the basement and an elevator to all 4 floors. So
you have
storage,
to have that.
yeah, I have to have it, but it's brilliant because for Pride and for other things, there's a lot of moving pieces. So having an elevator and dropping, bringing things down and doing all that is great. So we're wildly excited. We think it's going to be fantastic. Hopefully open next year.
You've talked about, and we've talked about in the past, but I think it's probably more prevalent now. We've got like 10 minutes left, and we got to touch on it. I mean, times have changed right now. You've got a lot of different things going on. Certainly, there is more emphasis from the federal government, state governments on trans people. How are we doing with that right now?
Well, to speak on that, I remember watching last year when we were looking at the election and saying if things go a certain way, it's not going to be good, and it did go that way, and things aren't good. And when we look at the South, the laws are incredibly punitive, and I would say mean-spirited.
But before, here's the thing though, and I've said this because we've had shows on immigration and stuff, but the will of the voters, this is what they voted for too.
I would say, it's not a mandate. 51% isn't, that's not a landslide. But yeah, if that's what they voted for, then that's what it is. I don't understand it. More people in the United States believe they've seen a ghost than know a trans person. this is 1% of the population, and it feels very much like a scapegoat. It feels like,
military. I mean, the
kicking
crackdown
them
on
out
the
of
military.
military,
Yeah.
which makes no sense to me. These are folks that want to serve their country. They're not being discharged for any behavioral issues that they've done. They're doing their job. They're performing. Their reviews are there. I agree. If someone's not doing their job, they should be removed, but not for who they are.
People 18 and younger,
right?
Considered youth. No more. Really, for some states, no more trans anything.
Right. It's illegal to bring your kid to therapy if you are in certain states. Child says they're have questions or they're having issues.
And teachers have to report that now too in some
Right.
states. If a child, I guess, broaches the subject with them, I don't know how that would happen, but if the student sort of broaches it, the teacher has to report that.
Right.
In some states.
Right. Yeah, if I had a trans kid in Texas, I'd be looking to get out. We have a trans woman living with us. She's come up. We helped her come out of Texas, and she's working for a nonprofit in New Bedford. She's making more money than I am. She's living her whole life, and she finds it very freeing up here, which is great. Unfortunately, the national laws are again punitive. I mean, there's one law that says a person has to go to the shelter of their gender, of their birth gender. Well, a lot of trans folks present very convincingly as the opposite gender, what they were born with, and they have the court documents, they have the paperwork, they have all these things, but they have to go to the other shelter. I don't see why that makes anyone more safe.
Well, it started with the athletics too.
Right.
That seemed to be, the president did issue that executive order banning trans athletes from participating in sports.
Which again is punitive, and when you look at the issues facing trans folks, healthcare, security, there's between 40 and 50 trans women murdered in the United States every year. We do a Trans Day of Remembrance on November 20th, memorializing these folks, and it's heart-wrenching. And when I talk to trans people, it's security, employment, healthcare, you name it. Athletics, low on the list.
But play devil's advocate.
I know. It's a big...
Is it fair to, that's what the people are saying, is it fair that a trans athlete will play field hockey or swimming or participate in swimming? Is that fair?
I preface with that with, this is low on the list.
And you're right.
So, but saying that, I would hope the parents, the coaches, the team, and the school system would look at it and say, is this appropriate? How can we make accommodations? If you had a blind kid that wanted to play whatever, or a deaf kid, or whatever the disability was, or whatever the special need would be, I would hope that they would work with the school system and do it, not make a carte blanche like, no, this isn't going to happen. Again, from our side, it just feels very punitive on an issue that's not in the forefront when you're looking at murder, violence, unemployment, homelessness. Go down the list.
I would assume too that one of the things that you're probably seeing right now is, and you've talked about just the mental health issues,
right,
are expanding, and I guess that ties into what you're talking about, health care. But in general, gay or whatever the acronym,
right.
That right now that's a huge issue, mental health for you.
We've been doing listening sessions for our community, especially around the election and the new administration. What we're trying to do is take all this anxiety, fear, and what the Portuguese call anguish, this sort of, inside, listen to it, and then move it to positive action. We're trying to get local folks together to look at local issues, because that's what we can make a difference with.
Right.
And so taking all this crappy energy, processing it into good energy that you can make a difference.
Do you find when you get those one-on-one conversations with whomever, on whatever ilk they are, do you find that you make inroads?
Yeah. With individuals, it depends. I try to go on conservative radio when they have me. I'll be on BSM tomorrow morning. Saturday morning. And you get a lot of, I get a lot of the bathroom, I get a lot of trans in the bathroom, trans playing sports, two things. Once that's, and the religion. Once those are done, then we can get down to brass tacks about really what the issue is. So I want to be there for folks who are thinking, I've been taught this in church, but I know this gay person and I wonder, so they've been taught one way, they might question their thinking and they might want to ask someone who's in that experience. Right. So I want to be there for that. Again, I want to move people, no matter where they are, even a little step closer is a step closer, We
got 3 minutes. I want you to touch base quickly because we started the show talking about it's a busy month for you.
Yeah.
Give us a little bit of the dates and where you're going to be, and of course, I want you to the website, which we've promoted every time you come on. The website's great. It's actually a little better now. It looks like you've enhanced it a lot.
Yeah.
Talk about how they can get in touch with you.
So I'm easy to reach. Andy at the SouthCoast LGBTQ Network. Feel free to reach out to me. I answer the emails. And then secondly,
New Bedford Pride's this week.
This weekend,
or I should say June 7th.
June 7th. Taunton is the 14th at Hopewell Park. AHA Pride is the 12th downtown. There's a Fairhaven Pride, a Westport Pride coming up. A lot of Pride activities.
And they're different, right?
Yeah.
There's some tweaking, I guess.
Yeah, there's a lot of commonality. We were really excited about Westport last year. They asked us to help out. We helped out. I remember I was coming back from a work trip and came in and there's all these people in Westport, and I thought, great, good for you. Westport can be a little bit more of a conservative town, and I thought, great, this is great. The police were there, everyone was there. It was just a wonderful experience.
And for those who haven't gone, and again, generalize, what are those Pride festivals like? If people go, what will they see?
Pride, typically for us, Pride is a festival. We have a lot of vendors, people selling things, T-shirts, crafts, what have you. A lot of healthcare systems, so the South Coast Health Systems are there. A lot of religious organizations, people who are supporting us. It's amazing how many other religious come to Pride. We don't charge them, and we encourage them to participate. And just, it's fun. There's lots of kids. There's lots of folks. Bubbles and performances. New Bedford Rude Boys are the star act of the New Bedford Pride, and they have a great following, so they're really excited. So entertainment and food, and it's just a fun opportunity.
And outlets for people to talk too.
Exactly. I love it when you meet people who it's their first Pride, and they're a little bit nervous and they're a little bit cautious, but then you're welcoming them. And they're like a flower opening. It's just like they feel like they're at home, and it's great. And it's an opportunity for us to interface with the larger community. It's also important for us to show our strength, to show our diversity, and to show the support that we have in the larger community. So I'd encourage people who are allies, come to Pride. You don't have to be gay. You don't have to be trans. You can come and just enjoy it. It's for everybody.
Most people know somebody anyway.
Yeah, no kidding.
That'd be good. It's good seeing you.
Always a pleasure.
A lot going on. Keep us updated.
Look forward to it.
And we'll see you soon.
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you. That's
going to do it for this edition of A Conversation With. I'm Jim Marshall of the New Bedford Cable Network. Thanks for watching, and we'll talk to you again soon.
Visit aarp.org/caregiving for information on how to provide even better care for the person who wants to care of you.